Heute!
Sheriff, what are you sitting around for? We got places to go and people to see.
Yeah, I think I'd better start studying medicine.
Oh, why's that?
Because I'm beginning to feel a bit like Dr. Watson.
Harry S. Truman is the very presidentially named sheriff of the Pacific Northwest town of Twin Peaks. Together with Special Agent Dale Cooper, he works overtime to solve the murder of town beauty Laura Palmer. Harry is the son of former Twin Peaks Sheriff Frederick Truman and brother to current town Sheriff Frank Truman. Harry dresses in a somewhat Western fashion with a cowboy hat and an unusual brown jacket. He's among the first people to see the body of Laura Palmer dead on the shore of a river that sets off the entire series. Harry S. Truman was named after the 33rd President of the United States. Harry seems to be genuinely fond of that president and even keeps a quote of his ironically underneath a buck in his office. Harry is a very rural guy in that he likes hunting deer and fishing. Law enforcement seems to be the family business as his brother and father both take up the role of sheriff at times. Harry's police station is small and cozy with a friendly, familiar atmosphere. Harry and Cooper form an instant bond, and Harry is totally comfortable with working for a G-man, not something a lot of local law enforcement are willing to do. He slips right into the role of Agent Cooper's sounding board. Much of the time he's merely following Cooper's lead. In fact, when I was making this video, I found so many pictures of Cooper and Harry standing next to each other, and comparatively few images of Harry standing there alone. Truman is essentially in a Dr. Watson-style relationship with Cooper, often willing to sit there for long stretches and listen intently to whatever Agent Cooper has to say. It even became a running gag that his catchphrase on the show was a vaguely baffled, resigned, "Yeah." Harry, of course, helps with the case, but it's more about bringing local knowledge to the table rather than expert deduction. Cooper is the leader, and Harry is at his side to render whatever assistance he can on what is manifestly Cooper's quest. Harry is the hard-nosed local cop to the tough, spiffy, neat-and-clean G-man played by Cooper. Even later on in Season 2, when events lead Cooper to be demoted to Harry's deputy, Harry still follows Dale's lead. They just go through the motions of technically putting Harry in charge. He knows who the senior lawman is, and he lets it go with that. That's not to say Truman isn't a good officer. Harry is an excellent policeman and has presumably for many years led the Twin Peaks unofficial as well as official law enforcement. Harry is the leader of a secret society called the Bookhouse Boys, a group of Twin Peaks men who have gathered for generations at a large cabin, appropriately enough overflowing with books. The Bookhouse Boys has always been one of the great little details of the show. I think every fan has fantasized about being involved in the clandestine activities of the Bookhouse. Meeting there to drink coffee late at night, read books I always imagined to be metaphysical and filled with strange lore and nature, and plan to counter the dark criminals and creatures lurking in Ghostwood Forest. At high school age, certain trustworthy young men are inducted into its ranks and perform extra-legal acts of justice. Harry, though a sheriff, is perfectly willing to employ Ed Hurley as a makeshift deputy or task local 17-year-old James Hurley with watching an illegally held prisoner. Harry is willing to break the law pretty cavalierly on multiple occasions, not just tying up Bernard Renault. He's also happy to send Dale Cooper and Ed Hurley across national borders into Canada in order to do some illegal investigating. Even more brazenly and illegally, he storms a Canadian whorehouse called One-Eyed Jack's with Dale and eventually Hawk. It's for a good cause in order to save Audrey Horne from death, but it's still incredibly illegal. Harry is also quite happy to follow Agent Cooper's lead on the more unorthodox methods of solving crime. Truman lets Dale in on the evil in the woods that turns out to be so horrifying later on in the series. The Bookhouse Boys in part are designed to react to things of a supernatural nature that happen around town. So Harry is more willing than most to accept strange occurrences and try out strange techniques. Harry seems a bit skeptical at first about Tibet, rock throwing, and dreams, but only faintly. He's willing to go down that road, probably because of his interactions with the strange stuff in Ghostwood Forest over the years, and stories about it he's heard going back to his childhood. Still, Harry is more hard-headed than Cooper, and once even demands that Cooper pull back when overwhelming evidence to the contrary presents itself.
Cooper, I've backed you every step of the way. But I've had enough of the mumbo-jumbo. I've had enough of the dreams, the visions, the dwarfs, the giants, Tibet, and the rest of the hocus-pocus. Now we got hard evidence against Ben Horne. It's my job to lock him up.
You're right, Harry. This is your backyard. Sometimes an outsider can forget that.
Harry witnesses Agent Cooper surgically destroying layer upon layer of falsehood and secret kept by the tiny town. There's no way he could have done this on his own. Truman is stunned that one man can go through so much obfuscation and is suitably impressed. There was no way on earth Harry could have unlocked the secret truths about Laura and her murder, but I think that Cooper would have been lost without Harry, too. Truman's vital local knowledge, occasional skeptical eye, and unflagging support are the fuel that keeps Dale on the path of Laura's killer and the Black Lodge itself. The friendship he forms with Agent Cooper also helps Dale fall in love with Twin Peaks and its people. Harry indulges Cooper with his love of donuts and coffee. He even insists that a huge lineup of donuts be placed on the conference table every night, a lawman's dream. The sheriff's station isn't just a place of business, it feels like a home. I've already spoken about this in my video about Agent Cooper, but the bromance between Agent Cooper and Sheriff Truman is, well...
sex.
Right, enough of that. Let's just say that the two gel together well. They both immediately look after each other, such as when Sheriff Truman is accused of assault, Dale, even though he's only known him a few days, defends him to the hilt.
Albert wants this guy's badge, Coop.
Gordon, here's how it is. You know Albert. In my opinion, Sheriff Truman displayed the patience of a saint, not clocking him a day earlier than he did.
He wants it filed with the U.S. Attorney.
File it under F or forget it.
Cooper.
And you tell Albert that if he wants to pursue this, I'll fight him all the way up the chain to Washington.
And Harry becomes equally defensive about Cooper when he's accused of drug trafficking and misfeasance by the FBI's internal affairs.
If I understand the law correctly, you need extradition papers in order to get a statement from me. And you need a subpoena from a judge. Now, unless you gentlemen have that paperwork, I suggest you take your cooperation, stuff it.
When it comes to investigating Harry's girlfriend for murder, even though she tried to kill Agent Cooper, Dale cannot bring himself to be cruel to Harry. Dale waits a long, long time before bringing in Josie because he's unwilling to hurt his friend's feelings. During the early second season, Agent Cooper discovers that Audrey Horne has gone missing and her kidnappers want money from her father. He agrees to bring the money to them and asks Harry for some help, unofficial help from the Bookhouse Boys. And Harry answers this strange and illegal request without demanding answers and even volunteers himself to come along. They storm the whorehouse together and work perfectly as a unit, ably defeating thugs, escaping harm, and getting out with Audrey in tow. I think we'd all like to have a friendship like this, a friend who knows us, understands us, works with us, and helps us to be a better person.
Sex.
After Leland Palmer is revealed as Laura Palmer's killer, Harry watches Cooper go through a sort of mystical send-off for the man. It's a little unclear what Harry thinks about all this talk of religion and so forth. Does he approve, or does he think it's more nonsense? Afterwards, Harry expresses his belief that Leland was a mortal human being who was totally insane, and just assaulted and killed his daughter, not a vessel possessed by an evil spirit from the woods. It's surprising, considering how open to weird ideas he is, that he won't even consider the Killer Bob scenario to be accurate. Well, maybe he does consider it. Harry maintains a fairly tight skepticism about everything, although it's not as manufactured as Agent Scully's was from the X-Files. In that show, Gillian Anderson seemed to be playing a sort of a role as a skeptic. It didn't feel natural, dutifully taking the devil's advocate role against Agent Mulder. Harry Truman is a more realistic skeptic. He's willing to silently accept the weird things Dale claims are real, but when it comes down to it, he has a tough time taking any of it seriously, preferring to think of it as a quirkiness from Dale or a symptom of insanity both from Mr. Gerard or Leland. I don't know if the show ever addresses this, but Harry plays a role in setting up Maddie Ferguson for murder. I know that sounds strange, but think about it. Leland Palmer is a man who showed repeated mental instability, to use the words of Darrell Lodwick, the prosecutor. Leland danced around insanely, cried in public, and even jumped on his own daughter's coffin during a funeral. All of this was witnessed by Harry, and then Leland murdered a man. A demonstrably insane man committed first-degree premeditated murder, and yet Harry, the sheriff, and thus possessing no small moral weight behind his opinion, told a judge that Leland should be released on bail. Now, there was no way Harry could have known that Leland committed those other crimes against Laura. Even Dale didn't know that yet, but he should never have let Leland run free. I don't think that was ever addressed on the show, but geez, it was a major lack of judgment on Truman's part. And it was probably because Harry is so good-natured and willing to forgive. His small-town attitude towards friends he's known his whole life turned against him when the enemy was within, not an outsider. It's not a black mark against Harry or the town, just a reflection of what can go wrong with a rural town's sense of self-identity and desire to protect your friends and neighbors. Harry is a sweet guy, there's no doubt about it. He willingly employs both Lucy Morand and Andy Brennan, two people who are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. They get confused over the simplest things, need frequent oversight in order to prevent screwing up, and often quarrel with each other over nothing. We can occasionally see Harry almost getting upset about this, which is only natural.
Morning, Lucy. What's going on?
Thanks to Jay, Jared decided not to kill himself. and he's changed his will, leaving the towers to Jade instead of Emerald, but Emerald found out about it, and now she's trying to seduce Chet to give her the new will so that she can destroy it. Montana's planning to kill Jared at midnight, so the towers will belong to Emerald and Montana, but I think she's going to double-cross him, and he doesn't know it yet. Poor Chet.
What's going on here?
However, most of the time he can endure their simplicity and see how valuable the two are underneath. He's not willing to put up with Andy's weakness when it comes to crying at dead bodies, though. Truman's a bit hard on the guy, all things considered, but lets Andy grow and know deep down inside that he's a good cop. And when he screws up, he teaches him later on and he gets better. Harry's a great guy, willing to treat everyone with patience and care. Well, almost everybody. In the first season, Harry meets up with his nemesis on the show, a snide, nasty FBI agent named Albert Rosenfeld. The friendly, kind, gentle, happy to let things go Harry cannot stand a person who's his polar opposite. Albert is a caricature of what rural people think of fast-talking city folk. In the first few minutes of meeting each other, Albert bitterly disparages Twin Peaks, the populace, and of course country life in general, provoking a rare display of anger from the unflappable Harry.
I hear that you're real good at what you do.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, that's good. Because normally if a stranger walked into my station talking this kind of crap, he'd be looking for his teeth 2 blocks up on Queer Street.
Problems only get worse for the two when Albert icily demands that they postpone Laura's funeral until he completes his autopsy. Albert speaks without the faintest pretense or hint of sympathy for human feelings in his voice. He's there to do a job and damn everything else about your feelings. The polar opposite of Harry's attitude about seeing the good beneath the surface of seemingly incompetent people.
Well, I've had about enough of morons and half-wits, dolts, dunces, dullards, and dumbbells. And you chowderhead yokel, you blithering hayseed, you've had enough of me?
Yes, I have.
The feud doesn't end there and becomes even more bitter over time. Albert continually winds up Harry for no real reason other than his mean-spirited determination to insult and mock. Albert even repeatedly goes up against the sweetest pie, Andy Brennan, but Truman refuses to rise to the occasion. Harry chooses the more adult route of ignoring Albert until the job at hand is over, and amazingly this process creates a kind of bond between the two men. After going through the serious trauma and almost metaphysical experience of seeing Bob kill Leland, they've become fast friends. Unlike quite a bit of television which presents one relationship between characters and then leaves them that way, especially on TV in the 80s, Twin Peaks boldly changed their minds and interactions radically between seasons, ending the feud as fast friends and partners in law enforcement.
Gentlemen, another trip on the Seattle Loop, Twin Peaks shuttle. How are you? Looking good, Harry.
Albert briefly attempts to press charges against Sheriff Truman for assault in Season 1. Thankfully, Harry has the full backing immediately from his new best friend, Dale Cooper. I mentioned this in my episode about Cooper, but I'll say it again. Harry Truman and Dale Cooper have one of the greatest bromances of all time. Even in the pilot, they're instantly begun working together, like they've known each other forever. The bond is instant and seems permanent. Someone who may have had a great friendship with him in the past in Twin Peaks is local jailbird Hank Jennings. Hank is a thug who tries to commit a series of crimes including murder, assault, and drug dealing. But he was once a bookhouse boy and one of the best of us, as Harry puts it. Truman has presumably come to know Hank for what he really is before he even went to prison. This was likely a shattering moment of Harry's psyche and left him reeling when his best friend from childhood destroyed his trust and played him like a fool. Harry is instantly suspicious and cold to his former friend, eagerly twisting the knife about Hank's criminal behavior, and Hank twists it right back. Harry says he doesn't think people change, meaning that a criminal won't change to law-abiding citizen, although that ignores the fact that Hank was once a good guy and changed to a bad person. Maybe Hank's betrayal has left Harry bitter and cynical over the years. Harry probably hadn't had a close friend since Hank's betrayal, and maybe Agent Cooper was there to fill that role. Because of Hank's irrelevance to the later plot, he's more important for what he can tell us about Harry's past and his character, and enhances the bromance with Coop to know that Harry not only finds a best friend, but is recovering from losing his former one to betrayal. Hank continues his criminal ways until he's finally run afoul of the law and is sent away for good. Harry is still emotional and bitter about the whole thing, but is satisfied to send Hank away for a long time. Harry runs into his biggest trouble, however, with the woman in his life, Josie Packard. We don't know much about Harry's past, but he's about 40 years old, unmarried, and has no children. He starts dating local widow Josie Packard just 6 months before the show begins. Harry seems totally consumed with Josie, falling in love with her quickly. He's also completely overwhelmed with her sexually, allowing himself to be seduced away from important legal matters multiple times.
A man who doesn't love easily loves too much.
So Harry unfortunately ignores many troubling signs about his girlfriend. Josie is cynically using Harry for her own purposes, crassly using her seductive abilities to distract him while she finalizes her plans for arson and murder. Josie is a complex character, and whether she really felt things for others, was manipulating them, or some strange gray area in between is left unknown. I feel that she really did love Harry in some way, and was devastated that she had to do what she did. Josie repeatedly lies to Harry and tries to leave him in the midst of her scheming and criminal plots, only to return unexpectedly back in town. Harry is worn down by all of this, but never crosses the line of taking her down to the station and interrogating her. He lets Josie lie to him beyond what is rationally acceptable, refusing to believe what had become clear to everyone around her, that she was trouble. Eventually the lies, schemes, and crimes ensnare Harry's girlfriend, and tragedy ensues.
Harry!
Put it down!
Harry, forgive me. I never meant to hurt you.
Josie.
Harry might have been able to save Josie if he had been more suspicious and tough with her. Josie may have ended up safely in a jail cell instead of the terrible trap Catherine Martell set for her. I don't think Harry ever really acknowledges this on the show, but his belief in her partially led to her demise. Just like with Leland, Harry's good nature potentially leads to criminals killing someone else. There was ample evidence to arrest Josie, and he didn't, possibly letting Thomas Eckhart be murdered. After Josie's death, Harry is totally shattered. He falls into maudlin self-pity and even seems to contemplate suicide. This is one of the only cases where Harry shows hostility to Agent Cooper, a man he considers his best friend and partner, lashing out at him during a moment of drunken, suicidal rage. Cooper is a bit too hard on Harry when he tells him about her prostitution arrests. Harry even seems more than a bit upset about an outsider coming into town and stirring up so much trouble. Eventually, though, the bromance proves stronger than the romance, and Harry lets everything out in Agent Cooper's arms.
Never crossed the ocean. Never got to China. She came to me. And she made everything better. Should have gotten her away. I should have taken her away from here! I loved her. She didn't have to die. There's a whole lot I don't understand. We're all like that. Sex.
Harry only later discovers that Josie was locked in the power of the dark forces of the woods around Twin Peaks. We never get a good look at what Harry might think of this. Is he terrified about what the evil creatures might have done to Josie? What does he think of the fact that Bob appeared when Josie died and that he might have been feeding off his girlfriend's pain? It would have been interesting to see him comment on that, or maybe we're just supposed to infer that the horror anyone would feel under those circumstances is what he's feeling. The reasons I waited so long for this episode was that I couldn't quite collect my thoughts for Sheriff Harry S Truman. He's one of the best, most important, and obviously one of the main characters on the show. So why couldn't I quite work out what to say about it? Well, importantly, there was little negative to say about him. Unlike the Martells or Hank or some things with James and Donna, there was no obviously bad, dull, or silly parts of his character, and it's easier to criticize things that, well, deserve criticism. But Harry's more of a Samwise Gamgee kind of character. He's there at the side of our main guy, ready to help him with whatever he needs. There's nothing really bad that happens with his character, and he's always investigating something, so there's always something interesting and intriguing going on with him. There's no dead plot lines where the other parts of the show meanders. And as the Man Friday or Dr. Watson to Agent Cooper, he was more of a reactive figure. Harry was almost always at Cooper's side, ready to be the guy Cooper bounced his ideas off of. It's no secret that the actor who played Harry, Michael Ontkean, has retired from acting and often will not discuss the show. Unlike quite a few others who are more than willing to wax nostalgic about the program, Michael Ontkean won't return for the new season. The only thing we've heard about Harry so far is that in 2017 he is sick. Presumably so sick that he had to quit his job as sheriff and hand it back over to his brother, Frank. But some of the more optimistic fans, myself included, have noticed that this was brought up again in a later episode. Why would they continue to bring this up if it's so irrelevant? Is it possible that Truman could come back for the new season? It would be amazing that, after not seeing him for the entire series, he would show up in the last episode, episode 18, and just help Agent Cooper at the very last moment, maybe shoot someone that's trying to kill Agent Cooper or something like that. That would be incredible, and I would love it. The last moment of the show, Agent Cooper ventures deep within the horrors of the Black Lodge. For some reason or another, Cooper declares that Harry, ever at his side, must stay behind. This is something for him alone. Truman is baffled but obeys Cooper's request. The weird mystical side of Twin Peaks is something Cooper, though an outsider, is more readily able to accept. Harry is visibly astonished when he sees Cooper break the bonds of reality and disappear into another dimension. He remains hour after hour in front of Glastonbury Grove, his mind totally locked on his friend. When Cooper finally emerges, he's not privy to what we've seen inside the Black Lodge. What appears to be his friend is in fact a dark enemy, a doppelganger of Cooper ready to wreak evil and violence on the world. What happens after the end of the series is largely unknown, but maddening to think about. Did Harry recognize the doppelganger as evil eventually? Did he try to stop it? Did he at least have some suspicions about the Doppelcooper? Harry gained a best friend for a couple of weeks, and then he was ripped away from him. Was Harry not capable enough an investigator without Cooper to find out the truth? How did Harry cope with this? We'll never get to see Harry's desperate reaction to save his friend. Maybe if the series continued, we would see Harry using the techniques he learned from Coop to save him from the Lodge. We'll never really know. All we have is a very sad story about a man who gained a great friend, learned so much about the law from him, and then lost him pretty quickly to horrible, unbelievable evil deep in the woods. But Sheriff Harry S Truman remains a symbol of small-town law enforcement, of a homey atmosphere, and of an absolutely brilliant friend and a great guy. How can you dislike Harry? He's absolutely amazing.
It's been about 10 hours since he went in there.
Do you want a thermos of coffee?
Yeah.
Do you want a plate special?
Yeah.
Do you want dessert?
Yeah.
Do you want pie? Harry?
Hello, my name is Michael. Thank you for watching this video. Please like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my Twin Peaks content. I'm going to be uploading a video every week after each of the new series of Twin Peaks episodes comes out, and I react to them. And I've also linked here 2 more videos I've made about Twin Peaks, so please check them out. And please tell me in the comments below what you thought of Harry S. Truman. And I can't imagine there's anybody who disliked Harry Truman, but if there is, please tell me why. And if you liked him, as I did, is it because he was one of the best characters? Tell me why you liked him. Tell me what I missed and left out of here from talking about him, or tell me what I got wrong. Just continue the conversation in the comments. Thank you very much, and have a good day.